Okay guys, so in today's video we are going to be reacting to a popular shorts creator known as His Story. And I could see that you guys watch him a lot because here's his subscriber count. And by the way, 62% of people watching this video aren't subscribed, and I want to get that to 50% by the end of next month. So if you can, subscribe if you're not. Anyway, let's get into it.
The way I heard it go down was that my teenage son, Jimmy Boy, was standing in the middle of the scorching hot desert with a gun in his hands, a man on his knees in front of him, and no way out of a terrible situation. If I had been there, none of this would have happened. The man on his knees was named Sal Vittori. Please, I swear I didn't steal it. Why would I start a war between us? Aidan Byrne, the head of a local Irish gang, put his hand on my son's shoulder. The hand of a man who had claimed my son as his own. Listen to me, boy. This is your chance to show us what you're made of. Sal wept. Please, I have kids and grandkids for Christ's sake. I never stole from your gang. Aidan's crazed, trigger-happy wife, Kaylee, stepped up beside them. Can we cut this one's head off and go bowling with it? Aidan laughed. Whatever you want to do, darling. Sweat poured down my lost son's face. His 17-year-old hands were shaking, and every part of him that was still human was in direct conflict with every part of him that just wanted to belong to something and be cool. My son stood up straighter and tried to dig deep and find what he thought was strength. He stood there for a long moment with the gun against Sal's head, and what I consider a miracle,
Yo, are you gonna shoot
he
him or
couldn't
not?
do it. His arm dropped.
Yes, good.
He stepped back and stared down at the ground in shame. I'm sorry. Aidan went ice cold. Then he did something that haunts me when I think about it. He put his hand against my son's cheek the way a father does, pulled him in and kissed him on the forehead. Aidan took the gun from Jimmy Boy's hands and passed it on to Kaylee. She took it with the manic smile of someone who lived to kill and got off on power. She pulled the trigger and emptied the clip into the rest of Sal, just for fun. But they had literally no idea someone was watching, because behind a large rock 50 yards away, a man from the Riccozzi family saw the whole thing.
Crazy,
From the angle where he was crouched down, Kaylee's smaller
Boring moments later.
I put my $50 I'd been hiding from my dad in my pocket, then stuck my head out my bedroom door and watched him. The new arcade had just opened up, and I really wanted to go, but Dad never let me leave the house. He searched my sister's room, then went downstairs, and I instantly opened my bedroom window. My heart pounded as I climbed out, and when I saw Dad lay down for his afternoon nap, I knew I had about 90 minutes before he woke up. At the arcade, I had the time of my life, and I even broke the record on the basketball game. When I saw 1 hour had passed, I decided to go home before Dad woke up. But as I was leaving, I saw a long queue in the corner. The sign said, "Jackpot prize, 1 NBA Finals ticket, entry $2. My heart jumped because going to the NBA Finals was my dream. I thought about what Dad would do if I came home late and still decided screw it. In the line, I kept checking the time anxiously as everybody failed. When my turn came, I put in my last $2 and swung the hammer. The neon bar stopped at the jackpot slot and the machine lit up. My eyes went wide because I actually won. The manager instantly gave me the ticket with the official NBA stamp, all while I pinched myself. I sprinted home happier than ever, still not believing this was real. But when I walked in the door, Dad was already waiting with his arms crossed. "Where did you go?" His voice shook with rage, but I was so happy I barely even looked at him. "Just went for a walk." I sprinted to my room immediately. He yelled, "Don't leave the house without my permission again." And I replied, "Okay, sorry, Dad." I placed the ticket into my Steph Curry jersey at the bottom of my drawer with shaking hands, and that night went to sleep with the biggest smile on my face. But when I came home from school the next day, I unfolded the jersey to see the ticket again, but it wasn't there. I immediately panicked and began tearing through every drawer. My eyes filled with tears when I couldn't find it, and that's when I heard my dad behind me. "Looking for your ticket?" He smirked, and I went pale, realizing he knew about it. He laughed. I sold that ticket, and my stomach sank. I shook my head because he knew how much it meant to me, but then he pointed outside. I looked and saw his car, with new shiny chrome rims, freshly tinted windows, and a new paint job. I started crying, but I won that ticket, and Dad's face twisted in anger. He pointed his finger at me. "You broke my rules under my roof to get that ticket. Be thankful you're not grounded too." He slammed my door, and I sat on my room floor, staring at the empty jersey where my ticket was, and crying. I put my $50 I'd been hiding from my dad in my pocket. When all the lights in our Airbnb switched
Let's make a new nickname for him. Dumb Dad the Famous Failure, anyway.
off, me and my son ran to the front door to find out what was When all the lights in our Airbnb switched off, me and my son ran to the front door to find out what was going on. When we finally managed to pry it open, we were met with a huge pile of snow. Even our rental car was barely visible under the white. I called every emergency number I knew, but none of my calls were going through, so I gently turned to my son. Go inside. There must have been a blizzard. As soon as he did, I started sweating with panic, because now we were in the middle of nowhere with no phone signal, no source of food, and no way out. I ran to the fridge, and there was only enough food left for 3 days. I buried my face in my hands and walked to my son's room to try and tell him some version of panic, because now we were in the middle of nowhere with no phone signal.
What do you mean in the middle of
No source of
nowhere?
food.
Look behind your house, genius.
And no way out.
Exactly.
I ran to the fridge, and there was only enough food left for 3 days. I buried my face in my hands and walked to my son's room to try and tell him some version of the truth. But when I opened the door, he wasn't there. I heard screaming, so I ran outside and found him packing a third snowman. I heard you on the phone, Daddy. We get to stay here forever. It's a winter wonderland. He unwound his red scarf and wrapped it around the snowman's neck. He doesn't have skin. He's colder than me. I laughed
obviously
because
he
my
doesn't
son
have
was seeing
skin.
our
He's
emergency
dead.
as a chance to
He's not
play
even
together. I
not even
crouched
that- he was
down
never
and
allowed
started
to be
collecting
there.
snow with cupped hands because I figured distracting my son was the best thing I could do. We built 4 snowmen side by side and dressed them up with clothes from our wardrobe. Look, son. We have our own snow family. He went to sleep that night with a smile on his face, and even though I was panicking, I knew I'd done the right thing, especially 2 nights later when someone started pounding on the door. Because when I ran to see who it was, I opened the door to a rescue team. The one at the front nodded at the snowmen. My spotter caught a red scarf standing in a field, and we figured you guys were lost in the blizzard. My son grabbed my hand and bounced. They came to see our snowmen. All that time I thought I was keeping him calm, but his playing was the only thing that saved our lives. He pumped both fists and cheered, the same cheer from 2 nights ago. This time I cheered with him. When the whale was tracking my little brother's hand through the glass when the kid behind us chucked popcorn at the tank and yelled, "Eat up, Shamu." Tommy didn't turn around. That's not Shamu. Her name is Luna, and orcas remember faces. The kid laughed and held up another handful of popcorn and launched it into the tank. She gonna remember me, whale boy? Tommy's hands trembled on the railing. He'd loved orcas forever. Mom worked 2 months of doubles for these seats. His smile disappeared, and I saw him clenching his fists. Some rich kid was going to ruin it before the show even started. His 2 friends started cracking up. She probably likes the popcorn, bro. The kid stood up, leaned over the rail, and dumped his soda and popcorn box into the pool. Hope she likes Sprite too. Tommy spun around, his whole body shaking. Stop, you're going to kill her. The kid laughed and shoved Tommy in the chest. Tommy hit the railing and slid to the floor. The 3 of them stood over him, howling. That was it. I jumped up to show them what happens when you mess with my brother. But that's when Luna let out a low call and disappeared under the water. 2 seconds of nothing. I froze on the steps. Then she breached right in front of them and slammed her tail like a thunderclap. A wall of water hit all 3 in the face. One slipped and went down screaming. They ran out drenched and crying. A trainer rushed over. "Are you okay?" "She's never done that. She picks her people." Tommy walked to the glass. Luna rose to meet him. He pressed his hand to the glass and she nudged it back. "Told you," he said. "Orcas remember fake corn," and launched it in. I was working at a factory, holding a piece of burning hot metal when my boss ripped the safety gloves right off my hands. The hot metal dropped to the floor. I yelled, "Hey, I need those. I almost burnt myself." He ignored me and threw my gloves in a trash bag. "New policy. You all work without safety gloves now. Real men work with their bare hands." My palms were already burning from the heat. My coworker Joe yelled, "Boss, someone can get seriously hurt." He laughed. "Then don't be stupid." He walked down the line and snatched the gloves off every worker. We all knew this was a disaster waiting to happen. Within days, workers already had second-degree burns on their hands. Another guy had to be hospitalized after a machine took his pinky off. Joe held up his bandaged fingers. "Boss, we need the gloves. Someone's gonna lose a hand." The boss didn't even look up. "Shut up, be a man and work." But I wasn't about to lose my hand
How
over
did
this
you
dumb
walk,
policy.
boss?
So that night, I
Real
snuck
walk.
into his office,
Well,
pulled a
that
pair
is.
of gloves out of the trash bag, and hid them in my backpack. Every day after that, I'd secretly slip them on when he wasn't looking, hoping he wouldn't catch me. One afternoon, I heard the worst scream of my life. I turned around and saw Joe. His arm was caught in the metal press. Guys immediately ran over to pull him out, but the metal was burning hot and sharp as a blade. They couldn't touch it without shredding and burning their own hands, and the boss just stood there, frozen. No one had gloves to help. Joe was screaming for someone to save him. That's when I remembered the gloves in my backpack. I yanked them on and grabbed the burning hot press with both hands. It seared and sparked, but the gloves held. I pried it open and pulled Joe's arm free. Paramedics rushed in to take over, and one of them grabbed my shoulder. Another minute and he'd have lost the whole arm. "You saved it." A safety inspector showed up to investigate and got angrier by the second. "There isn't a single pair of gloves in this entire factory. Who's responsible accountable for this. The whole floor looked at the boss. I spoke up. He said real men work with their bare hands and band gloves. The boss stood silent. They handcuffed him for every injury he caused. Days later, Joe came back to visit. His arm was wrapped in a brace, and he carried packs of safety gloves for everyone. The principal slapped the vending machine. This thing isn't getting refilled until every last snack in it is finished. The entire cafeteria groaned because it was filled with off-brand chips and gummies nobody even wanted. I raised my hand. I volunteer as tribute. Everyone turned to face me, and I kept going. I weigh 430 pounds. Eating is what I'm good at. I got it. The entire room watched in silence as I took out $50 worth of candy and finished every piece in 2 minutes. A kid's jaw dropped. Whoa. Another kid near the front slid his dollar into the machine and dropped a chocolate bar on my table. Then another kid did. Then 10 more lined up behind him, feeding the machine and stacking snacks in front of me. The principal crossed her arms by the door. No way you can keep going. But no one was listening to him, and chaos broke out. The jocks carried me onto the lunch tables and called it my throne. A girl kept my cup full of water. Another stacked napkins by my elbow. And a kid I'd never met flipped the breakers so the cafeteria went dark, and the principal couldn't see what we were doing. People ran back to their lockers for spare change until the whole school was out of money. And that's when 2 jocks started punching the glass. It cracked, then shattered, and they reached in with their sleeves and handed me everything inside. I was still eating when I saw red and blue lights pull into the parking lot. My fingers were covered in chocolate when they walked us all outside and shut the school down for the day. When we came back the next morning, a brand new machine stood in the corner, but nobody was lined up for the snacks anymore. They were lined up for me. The fat kid saved us. I rubbed my belly. 430 pounds of pure goodness. Told you I got it.
Shut
the
up.
principal, my dad burst into my room on the 5th year anniversary of Mom's death and twirled his car keys. Come on,
Okay,
son.
I'm just gonna say this now. This guy is better than Zach D Films. In his dreams, bro. Only in his dreams he is better than Zach D Films. Mr. Will of D himself will never be beaten. He is just too good. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know, but so far, no.
That is going to wrap it up for today's video. Make sure you like and subscribe. And by the way, make sure you subscribe, because this explains enough. Well, anyway, see you in the next video. Bye.